The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the PIT People Count training in the PIT database. I am Amber Freeman, the Training and Technical Assistance Coordinator with the Connecticut Coalition to End Homelessness. We have another great point in time webinar for you today, but before we begin, I just want to go over some housekeeping. So because this is a webinar, you all are all muted, but you can please type in your questions inside of the questions box and we'll be sure to get to them at the end of the webinar. We'll also frequently look at the box to try to answer as many questions throughout the webinar as possible before we get to the end. Also, this recording is a webinar, so it is being recorded, and the recording as well as the slides will be available in our webinar library at www.cceh.org. When you go to our website, you can go to the resource tab and then you will see webinars. And there you will have a full list of all of the recent webinars that we have done. So for today's webinar, we have Linda Casey, who is the Director of HMIS and Strategic Analysis at the Connecticut Coalition to End Homelessness. And we also have Jim Bombasi, who is the VP of Operations with Nutmeg Consulting. I am going to let Linda start us off with telling you all how today's webinar is going to function.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining. This is a very focused webinar, so I'm just going to spend no more than 2 minutes talking about some intro. We're talking about the people count today, specifically how it relates to the HIC, the housing inventory count, a little overview of what that is, and we'll get into the data entry specifically for the night of PIT, which is Tuesday, January 26th this year, where you will enter in your people count for your shelters and your various projects, the 6 different project types. And Jim is going to give us the overview, the actual demonstration of how to do that in the PIT database. And that's just the URL for the PIT database if you don't already have it on hand. So this is just simply the obligatory slide in terms of what is the point in time count, the PIT, and what is the HIC, the housing inventory count. As you know, it is a count, the PIT is a count of the sheltered and unsheltered people experiencing homelessness, typically one night in January, again, Tuesday, January 26th. It's always held the last 10 days in January. And what we do is we talk about having this annual count to really understand how our state is doing. It's a national mandate, but how our state is doing as an overall effort to understand our homelessness in how in all of the region. So the housing inventory count is actually our count of beds, how many beds and units are dedicated. As you know, you did that back in the fall. What we're focusing on is the second part of that, which is really the people count. So the night of PIT, how many people are entered, you'll go through the specific categories for that. So this is, again, all the information you can need. The information is coming from the HUD HDX website, and you can have the link there on the bottom. And my last slide is truly just understanding that all homeless service providers will need to enter their information into the online PIT database. And as you have done back in the fall, matter of fact, November 18th was the deadline to get your bed counts in. Today, you're going to see about how to get those people counts in. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Jim to walk us through how to do that.
Okay, hopefully everybody can see my screen. How are we looking out there? Good, great, okay. All right, thank you, Linda and Amber, appreciate that. So as Linda said, we are now talking about the sheltered portion of the homeless count. Those of you who have done this before, this is the same process you've been doing for the last several years using the PIT database to capture your sheltered persons, meaning if you're an emergency shelter, permanent supportive housing program, transitional living program, or rapid rehousing program, and now even Safe Haven. We have a few of those in Connecticut in the last couple of years. This is where you're going to be entering your people count data for the night of the PIT count. What's really important is for those of you on the call today, if you are not responsible for housing inventory data entry, and this is the first time you're seeing a picture of the PIT database, please make sure to submit a help desk ticket. because we want to make sure that you're able to access the PIT database. Okay, so again, if you have never gone into the PIT database before to do people entry, I want to make sure that you can get access to the proper program so you can do that people count data entry. So again, please submit a help desk ticket to help@nutmegit.com and just let us know what agency you're with, what programs you'll need access to, and we can make sure that you're set up properly. If you did have housing inventory data entry responsibilities, there's nothing different for you this time. It's just going back into the PIT database. Your normal login, we didn't change the passwords or anything like that, so it is your HMIS username and that generic PIT password that you received, which is capital PIT 2021 exclamation point. You're going to keep using that login through the duration of the point in time count process. You'll use that as you go back in to do your people count data entry. So when you log in, you're going to come down to PIT as you did with the housing inventory part. You're going to click on the word PIT. I'll actually make my screen a little bigger too as soon as it settles. Just zoom in just a hair. That's better. Okay. And you'll come to this screen and you're going to go to PIT Programs Overview, just as you did for the housing inventory. And it's just going to load up. Actually, I'm going to shadow a user so it'll load up quicker next time. Because right now it's pulling all the projects. I didn't realize it knocked off my shadow. I was shadowing a user who had a much smaller list than I did. But I must have sat idle a little too long. Just have to give it a minute. Just have to give it another second. It's again, with my login, it's pulling in all the projects. So what I want to do quickly here is I'm going to back out. I'm going to shadow somebody with a smaller list and go back in there again. So this process will be a little quicker for us. So as we said, you're going to click on PIT and PIT Programs Overview. There we go. So most of you are familiar with this screen. This is where you did your housing inventory data, where you clicked edit and put in all your bed info. You should see a green checkbox next to all the inventories you were responsible for, and you should see the ability to edit on your people count side, okay? So as you look across, look at your program list to make sure you're seeing all the programs you need to see. If you don't see a program, just submit a help desk ticket and tell us either the HMIS name as it appears in HMIS, or if you happen to know the PIT ID number, you can give us that ID number and we can assign it to your username. But like I said, for those of you who did the bed inventory, this screen should be the same as what you saw back at the start of November. What you want to do is just click the words edit. And if for some reason edit is not clickable, just submit a help desk ticket and let us know, program ID 1608, I can't edit my population count. We might have to fix something for you on our side if there's an issue. All right, but for most of you, you should be able to just click edit here without any problem. And this is going to bring you to the people count side of the PIT database. Okay. So when it comes time to gathering the data for your client records for the people count, these are all clients. If you're an HMIS-based agency, you'll have access to this data in HMIS. You can use your APR to aggregate the data for you to fill in these tables. If you're a non-PIT participating agency, you still enter data into the PIT database. It's just whatever other methods you have for capturing your client data, you'll need to use to complete these tables. And those of you who've been doing this for the last few years, that's not a new process for you. What you also need to remind yourself and keep in mind if you're new at this is HUD language when it comes to capturing people count data. The first table you're going to come to is called households with at least one adult and at least one child. Now, you have to surrender the notion of how your programs are set up here. You can't consider your programs to be family programs and individual programs. you have to look at them. You have to look at them based off of how the family makeup is for your particular program. Households with at least one adult and one child means that in the household, there has to be at least one person over the age of 18 and one person under the age of 18 in order for you to enter data for this particular program. Now, when you look at your client data, this is why it's important to not think of the program as a family program or individuals program. You want to think of this as it's represented on the screen. So why that's important. You may have a family where the head of household is 45 and the other household member who is their child is 18. And those are the only two people in the household. Now that's probably somebody enrolled in your family program. It just happens to be that the child has aged up to the age of 18. That household would not go on this table because they're missing the household member who's under the age of 18. The only people that go onto this table, there has to be at least one person over 18 and at least one person under 18. So that's how you have to organize your data. If you have a household where you have that 45-plus-year-old head of household with the 18-year-old adult child, that data is going to go onto the table that's coming up next, which is the table for households with adults only. Okay, so again, you can see how if you view your client data on the night of the pick count as this is my family program, this is my individuals program, you can run into trouble and you can attempt to enter data here for a household that doesn't have any children. Now, this table is somewhat smart enough to detect that problem, but if you have a large program with a lot of individuals or a lot of household members, it won't be able to pick out that you accidentally entered a household where there were 2 adults and no children. So what's important is for you to organize your data in such a way that you have your households where it's your head of household where there's at least 1 minor, and then your household where there's no minors. Now, what you could have on this table would be a household where you have the parent who is over the age of 18. Let's say you have a 30-year-old parent, and that parent has a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. They would go on this table because you would have the head of household who's over the age of 18, and you would have 2 individuals under the age of 18, so they would go here. You could have a household where it is a 60-something-year-old grandparent, then you have the 40-year-old parent and the 17-year-old child. They would go on this household if they all present together at your program. The key is to focus on the age and not the status or the label of the person in the household. So don't look at your households of grandparent, parent, child. Look at them as 65-year-old, 40-year-old, 12-year-old. Okay, look at them in the breakdown of their ages because that will help you make sure you enter them in the correct table. You're going to be aggregating this data so it's the total number of households that you serve for that particular program. Okay, so the other thing that has to happen here is your household number. Let's say we have one household, and we're going to say it's a chronically homeless household. Now, if you've said that you have one household, you have to have at least a 1 here and either a 1 here or a 1 here. Because in order to be true for this table, you have to have a household where there's at least 1 person under 18 and 1 person over 18. So this would be allowable. What would not be allowable would be this. Okay? Because here you show 1 household of 2 people and they're both under the age of 18. You could not have that situation here. Okay, you have to have at least 1 person under 18 and at least 1 person over 18. You can have more people in the household than that. You can have 1 household with 1 person under, 1 person 18 to 24, and 1 person over age 24. That's fine. But again, you want to aggregate your data for your program. Like I said, your APR will provide this information for you. It will show you how many households you have where there's households with adults and children and their age breakdown, so you can get them onto the table if you want to use it that way. or you can also certainly just do it if your program's small enough and you know the program, the ages of the people in your program. You can just make a quick spreadsheet on your own into it. But what's the key is that this table has to be for people in your household or in your project where there's at least one person under 18 and one person over. The other thing to keep in mind here is if you have this situation, you have a household where there's somebody under the age of 18 and the parent is between 18 to 24. You want to remember that scenario, or you want to keep in mind your youth households. This would be a scenario where you have a parenting youth household, because you're going to need that data later on, okay? Because that's also going to go into our subpopulation. So this case would be you have a household where the head of household is between the ages of 18 to 24, and the child is under the age of 18. Now, a youth household, a parenting youth household, means there's nobody over the age of 24 in the household. Okay, and we're going to talk about that in more detail when we get into the subpopulation tables, but I want to talk about it briefly here, just so you all keep in mind when you fill out this table of who and what a youth household is. So a youth household would not be a household with a 45-year-old grandparent, a 22-year-old parent, and a 3-year-old child. That is not an unaccompanied youth household, because you have somebody over the age of 24 in the household. Okay, that would just be a standard household with at least one adult and one child. So that would be one household, one person under 18, one 18 to 24, and one over the age of 24. Is how that would be represented. Okay, so again, as you think about your households, think of them based on the age of the persons in the household, not the type of program that they're in. So if you're able to picture it that way, you won't make the mistake of trying to enter a household here where there's nobody under the age of 18 or there's nobody over the age of 18, because you have to have both of those conditions for that scenario. Okay, so we'll just put in some data here. So we're going to say we have two households. Both households are chronic homeless households. So if I say I have two households, there has to be at least two people here. There can be more, but there can't be less. And there has to be at least one person here, and then another person here, or there would have to be at least two people here. Again, these are all okay scenarios. But again, if you're saying you have two households, your total person count has to be at least 4. If you say you have one household, there has to be a total person count of at least 2. Okay, so this number always has to be greater than this number. The database will give you an error if these two numbers are equal, or if you try to enter a number where this number is greater than that number, it's not going to let you do that, okay? So there are some checks in there that will stop you from entering data that doesn't logically make sense. All right, so we're going to say we have two households, and again, it's fine if it's that, because that's two households where there's two people under 18, two people 18 to 24, and one person over 24. So again, perfectly fine scenario. And now, we said both households are chronically homeless. If that's the case, then this number has to be 5, because that's your total person count. If both households are chronic, then everybody in the household is chronic. If you said one was chronic, then however many persons are in that chronically homeless household would have to be here. And let's say 3 of the people were chronic. You could have that scenario, okay? But if all the persons, or all the households rather, are chronically homeless households, then you're going to want your chronically homeless person number to equal your total person number, okay? Because remember, the rule is if one person in the household, especially that household, is chronically homeless, then the household is considered chronically homeless, and everybody in that household is given the chronic homeless designation, okay? All right, so now for the gender designations, HUD requires 100% data entry when it comes to the gender, race, and ethnicity category for the PIT count. There is no data not collected option. There is no don't know, refused, or unknown option, okay? So that does pose a challenge sometimes for the PIT count, but do the best you can to get that information if for some reason you don't have it. And you need this for every household member. So the gender count has to add up to your total person count. however many you have of, when we say you have this scenario, for example, so 1 male, 4 female, totals 5, but you could not have this scenario. If you try to save after doing this, you're going to get an error message because this number is less than this number. You could have this scenario, that's fine. You could have, so you could even have this scenario, that's fine. As long as the total here adds up to your total household or total number of persons count. That's what's important, okay? If you try to have less, you're going to get an error. If you have more, you're going to get an error. So it has to be equal. Same thing for ethnicity. So you have 2 and 2. Again, or sorry, I say 3 and 2 because it's got up to 5. And then the same thing for race. Whatever you have for your races, say, and 2. So again, whatever the race breakdown is, it's got to add up to 5. Okay. If a person is of multiple races, don't put a number in the white block and the black block or Asian block to represent one person with multiple races. That would be one person that goes in the multiple race box, not a number for each race they identify as. So just again, provide one response when it's a multiple race scenario, right? And like I said, the race, ethnicity, and gender all has to add back up to the total number of persons, okay? Before we move off of the households with at least one adult and one child table, are there any questions? Okay. The next table is households without children. This is just as it sounds, is these are all your households where there are no individuals or family members who are under the age of 18. So you could have this scenario, one household of 2 total people because both persons are over the age of 18. That's fine, okay? You could have also had 2 households of totally unrelated people. One happened to be 18 and 24, one happened to be over 24, okay? So any households you have, whether they're singles, you're going to put them here, or whether it's a household of cohabitating adults, it could be, 2 40-somethings cohabitating. So you would have, one household of 2 people, that's fine. You could have, 10 households of, 5 individuals who are 18 to 24 and 5 individuals who are over 24. Again, they don't have to be related. This can be all unrelated individuals. So think of your programs where you don't serve those under the age of 18. You don't have that family dynamic where there's somebody under the age of 18. You only serve unrelated adults. This would be your table. You only serve, or the people in your program, there's nobody under the age of 18. Everybody's 18 or above. Whether they cohabitate, that's fine. This is the table they go on, okay? Chronically homeless, again, same rule. If you had, let's just look at the scenario where you have one household with an adult child and the parent. So you have the 45-year-old parent, the 19-year-old adult child, and it's a chronically homeless household where your chronic number is 2. So again, if one person in the household is chronically homeless, they're all chronically homeless. So let's just bump this number up a little bit. And 5 and 5. And we're going to say everybody in this particular scenario is chronically homeless. This would be a project where there's 10 households and everybody is a single and they're all chronically homeless. Again, note, you're identifying 5 individuals who are the age of 18 to 24. That's an unaccompanied youth scenario. So you're going to have to keep those in mind as we get down to our subpopulation tables about unaccompanied youth. The other thing I want to hazard, I want to go back to that example where we talked about this setup where we have the head of household is the 45-year-old parent. With them, they have a 19-year-old, and obviously there's the 45-year-old parent right there. This individual does not represent an unaccompanied youth household because they are in a household with their parent, somebody who's over the age of 24. Okay, so that would not be considered unaccompanied youth. Where you would have that scenario is if this person 18 to 24 is representing by themselves or representing with somebody else who's between the ages of 18 to 24. If they're with somebody who's over the age of 24, that's not an unaccompanied youth household. Okay, so let's again go back up. So we had 10 households of 5 and 5, and we'll say everybody was chronic. Now, same rule applies here. You have 10 total people, so you need 10. You need 10 total for gender, 10 total for ethnicity, and then 10 total for race. And as always, if you have multiple race, don't say, you know, one of them goes under the white column and then they also identify as being black. Put them down as in the multiple race category if that's the case. In this case, we'll just to make it simple, we'll say 5 black, 5 white, and that's how that would represent it, as long as these numbers add up to your total person count. If they don't, when you try to save, you'll get an error. Okay. Any questions about households without children? All right. Now, households with parenting children. Okay. Most of you out there do not have the scenario for the next two tables that we're talking about. This really falls under only youth and child specific programs. Programs that are designed to only serve those under the age of 18 who are representing alone, or who are parents who are under the age of 18 and representing alone. If your program does not accept somebody 17 years of age and younger, not accompanied by an adult, you're just going to put in zeros. And a quick note as I go back up, anywhere you don't have a value, as you see here, I put a 0. You have to put a 0 in any box that you don't have data, okay? Make sure you enter those zeros. It's a way of confirming that you've looked at the value or the field and you are recognizing that you do not have any data in that field. You're representing that with a 0. Okay, so for those of you who do not and cannot serve unaccompanied children, you're going to put zeros in all of these fields. Any gray field is going to calculate for you. You only have to care about the open fields, the white boxes. They're the ones that will calculate up into the gray fields. So if you can't serve that population and you don't have that scenario in your program, you don't have to worry about this table. If you're a program that serves children, then your households with parenting children would go here, okay? Now, if you noticed, this box and the next one have the green header. All the primary population tables have the green headers, all right? There's a reason for that, because when you get down to the households with parenting children, you'll note that if that's the only population you serve, you would have all zeros in these first two tables, okay? Because your parenting child household does not meet any of the above criteria. Everybody in the household is under the age of 18, so you would have zeros here because you have nobody over 18. You would have zeros here because you have nobody over age 18. And so for those of you who serve homeless children or runaway homeless youth, this is where you would be able to enter your household data where there's nobody in the household over the age of 18. So you could have total number of households, you could say 1. Number of chronically homeless households, we'll just go with 1. Total number of parents, we'll say 1. And number of children with that parent, we'll say 1. And then you'll have total chronic homeless children of 2. So this relates to or translates to one household with a parent, let's say, who's 17 and has a child, let's say, the age is 2. So this would be an unaccompanied parenting youth scenario where the parent is under the age of 18, okay? This household goes here because there's nobody in the household over the age of 17, okay? If this household had, let's say, 2 parents, and let's say one parent is 17, the other parent is 19, that would go on the top table because you have somebody who is over the age of 18. So you would have one person who is between 18 and 24 and 2 people under the age of 18. in that scenario, so they would not go here. Again, you have to focus on the ages of the people in the household. Okay, now you could have two 17-year-old parents with one minor child, and that's fine. And then just have to up that number to 3. That's perfectly allowable. So just keep that in mind. This table is for those programs who can only serve those who are unaccompanied and under the age of 17 and they're a parent. Okay, and then the same rules apply. You're going to put in the data for all the persons in the household. We'll say 2 and 1, and then 0 and 0, and we'll say 0 and 3, and 1 and 2, and 0. Just put some data in all the way across. But again, the key is all these values add up to 3. Okay. Now, the same rule applies when we talk about race for this table. So you may have a situation where the one parent in this scenario is black, one parent is white. It's however they identify the child. They can identify the child of either race, or maybe they identify the child as multiple. That's fine. That's how you could represent that. But again, the key is how do they represent, or how do they describe themselves in the child representing? That's what you would want to enter in these fields. Now, households with only unaccompanied children. So this is a household where we're not talking about the 17-year-old parent. We're talking about somebody 18 and under, so 17-year-old and younger, who do not have any children. They're totally unaccompanied. They're not with an adult, not with their parent, not with an aunt, uncle, anybody. This is somebody who represents by themselves, or they could represent as cohabitating. It could be two 17-year-olds, a 16 and a 17-year-old. But the key is they're not parents. They're minors who represent alone or without somebody over the age of 18 in the household. This is the table that they go on. They wouldn't go at any of the 2 top primary tables because, again, in order to be on one of those 2 tables, you have to have at least one person over the age of 18. These are individuals or cohabitating children who are under the age of 18, and there's nobody else in the household who is over the age of 18. So number of chronically homeless persons, we'll say we have 2 presenting as chronically homeless. One child, total number of one-child households, we'll say 1. Total number of multi-child, we'll say, actually, let's do this, make it easier, say 2, and then 0. And then number of persons in the multi, we'll just say 0 here. So this would be the scenario if you had cohabitating. So if you had a situation where you had 2 17-year-olds together, so total number of multi-child, you could have that here. In most cases, they present as a single. So total number of one-child households, and then total number of persons. There's a question popping up. We can actually grab that. And let's take a look and see, just to confirm. So if they're in a shelter as a household and 65 is chronically homeless, but 45 mom and 1-year-old son have been homeless for 2 months, all 3 still, yes. If they are in a home, if they are representing together as a household, if one member of the household is chronically homeless, all members of the household are chronically homeless. The data in HMIS, even if you're in an emergency shelter, will aggregate that data and will show that household as being a chronically homeless household in any reporting that happens. Okay, good question. All right. So again, so we have our scenario where we have the 18-year-old, you have the household where everybody's under the age of 18. They're both chronically homeless. They're presenting alone. They're one-child households, and then we'll just say 2, and then 0 and 0 and 0, and then 2 and 0 and 0, and 2 and 0, 0, 0. Again, however they represent, just provide the data. It just has to add up to the total number of persons. Okay, however many you have, if you have 10, if you have 20, if you have 30, whatever it might be, make sure you get all the gender info, all the ethnicity, and all the race info, and then make sure it adds back to the total number of persons, because you will get an error message if you try to save. All right, those are the primary populations. Primary populations, again, meaning everything that's got this green header is a primary population, okay? All right, so you have households where there's at least one adult and one child. All right, so you have the adult head of household with somebody under the age of 18. There has to be at least one person under the age of 18. It can be as many people as you want in the household. There could be 10 people in the household. As long as one person's over 18 and one person's under 18, you put them here. Even if it's a 35-year-old mom with 8 kids, all under the age of 18, they go here, okay? Because you have at least one person older than 18, one person under. Households without children, same thing. There's nobody under the age of 18 in this household, okay? Everybody here is 18 to 24 or over 24, whether they're alone or they're cohabitating adults, or it's a parent with an adult child or multiple adult children, this is where they would go. Your last 2 primary tables are really for those programs that serve runaway homeless youth. Most PSH and rapid rehousing and emergency shelters can't serve a child representing a loan. So for most of you, you're going to have zeros. But for your those runaway homeless youth programs that are designed to serve those under the age of 18, this is where you're going to enter your data. Again, the scenario here is nobody in either of these 2 tables is over the age of 18. Now, the next group is the subpopulation group. These are all purple headings, or at least depending on how they appear on your screen. On my screen, they're purple. These are your subpopulation headings or tables. And what that means is we're looking at the subset of the people you just entered data on. This is not on top of the clients you've just entered. This is, for example, veteran households with at least 1 adult and 1 child. That is saying, of your households with at least 1 adult and 1 child, how many of those households are veteran households? So if we go back up here, let's say we entered 2 households, we have a total of 5 people, so on and so forth, and let's say one of those households was a veteran household. Well, then you're going to provide that veteran data down here, okay? So we have 1 household, that's the veteran household. They are, it's a chronically homeless household. Total number of persons is 2. Total number of veterans is 1. Total number of chronic homeless persons would be 2, okay? So we have 1 veteran household with at least 1 child, meaning that the person in the household with that veteran is under the age of 18, and we know that because we're pulling the data from our households with at least 1 adult and 1 child table, okay? So you want to make sure you count the total number of persons, provide the total number of veterans. Now you could have, so some of you, especially those veteran programs out there, for the veteran programs, I apologize, but you have to do double entry. If you're a veteran program, whatever you enter, and you're all used to this, I know, those of you who've been doing this for the last few years, if you're exclusively a veteran program, whatever you entered here is what you're going to enter in your veteran table, okay? The only break you get is when you look at gender, race, and ethnicity, they just want that data on the veteran, not all the household members. So again, you could have a household with more than 1 veteran, okay? So you could have a household where there's 2 veteran parents and 1 minor child. That's fine. The key is to look at your client data for your households where there's at least 1 adult and 1 child, and then identify of those households, how many of them are veterans. And then are those veteran households, are you sure that there's nobody nobody over the age of 18, or at least 1 person under the age of 18 in that household? Okay, so our veteran households with at least 1 adult and 1 child, we've pulled that data down. So we have 1 household. It's a chronically homeless household. Total number of persons is 2, because there has to be 2 total people, because there's got to be 1 parent and 1 child in order for this to be valid. And then the total number of veterans has to be at least 1 in this scenario. And then the total number of chronically homeless would be 2, because everybody in the household is considered chronic. And then you can provide your data. Again, it all has to add up to your total persons, and provide whatever you want. We'll put in, oops, and I broke the rule. So you can see how easy it is to do, because again, with this, it is the veteran only, and it identifies that right here for you. So if you said total number of veterans is 1, this table is only going to expect to see a total of 1 in any of these sections. If you try to save, and you saved how I initially did it with all the household members, I would get an error message telling me that I've entered too many people in the veteran table. Okay, so just keep that in mind. When you get to the veteran subpopulation table, they just want the demographics on the veteran, all right? You provide all the household data here and then the veteran demographics there. Okay. Veteran household without children. Okay, so again, you're looking at your households without children table and saying, of my households without children, how many are veteran households? So you could have one household, total number of people 1, chronically homeless 1 if it's true, total number of veterans 1. That's fine. You could have one household, total number of persons 2, total number of chronically homeless persons 2, total number of veterans could be 2. It could be cohabitating adult veterans. It could be 2, 45-year-old veterans cohabitating in your program. That's fine. It could be a household where you have one veteran and it's one household of 2 people because it's a 45-year-old adult, 45-year-old parent who's a veteran with a 19-year-old adult child. Okay, that might be one of your scenarios, which is again fine because everybody in the household is over the age of 18. Or it might just be that you have, again, that one household scenario. It's one household of one person, and that's your one veteran. And as I said earlier, for the veteran programs, whatever you entered in your household without children table, you're entering all the same data. And again, I apologize, but you're entering all the same data again down here. Because your total veteran, your entire project are veterans, so you have to enter in both tables above, and then you have to enter down here, okay? So however many veterans you may be serving, let's say we've got 5 veteran households, 5 total people, they're all chronically homeless, and they're all veterans. That means that, all my data has to add up to, let's say 1 and 4 and whatever it happens to be, all the way across. It just has to add up to 5, okay? If you add up to less or more, then you're gonna get an error. Okay, any questions on the veteran tables? Just 2 tables to go, but okay, everybody's doing well. All right, youth subpopulation, parenting youth households. So this is a subpopulation of parenting youth and households where the parent is under the age of 18. Okay, so first thing, if you had data in your households with at least 1 adult and 1 child, and one of those households or more was a parenting youth scenario, meaning the parent is between the ages of 18 to 24 and they have a child with them under the age of 18. If there is anybody else in the household over the age of 18, that is not an unaccompanied parenting youth household, okay? This is a scenario where there's nobody over the age of 24 in the household, but there is somebody 18 to 24, and there's somebody under the age of 18, meaning a parent and a child. So you have a 19-year-old parent and a 3-year-old child. You would show them here, and then you would have to show them again down here in your parenting youth, okay? However many of those scenarios you may have many. You may have 3 households where there's a parent who's 18 to 24, and each of those parents has a child. That's fine, however many you have. The key is to be on this table, nobody in that household can be over the age of 24. All right, so again, it's important to think about your households and not get confused by the scenario where you have the 40-year-old grandparent, the 22-year-old parent, and the 3-year-old child. That is not a parenting youth household. That is a household with at least 1 adult and 1 child. But because you have somebody over the age of 24 in the household, it's not an unaccompanied youth scenario. The only data that comes down to this subpopulation table are those households where you have a 1 parent or 2 parents who are between 18 to 24, and there's a minor with them, somebody under the age of 18. All right. Now, if you notice, I have data here, okay? For those of you who operate runaway homeless youth, specifically those for the children under the age of 18, the system is going to pull that data down here for you. So then if you have any other parenting youth data, you can add that. Okay, so because we had data in our households with parenting children, it's going to migrate down and fill in the parenting youth data. Most of you are going to have zeros here. You won't have to do anything for that. What you will have to do is, if you don't have any parenting youth households, just provide the zeros. But if you do, then the total number of parenting youth, we'll say there's 1, and we're going to say that the household count of chronic is 1. Number of parenting youth, we're going to say it's 1 parent. Number of children, we'll say 1, and that means that there's 2 who are chronically homeless. Now, it's important when you're gathering your data, as I said earlier, when you look at this table and you think about your households with at least 1 adult and 1 child, whether you're using your APR or some other process, that's why I was saying to you, identify, when you're doing this process, identify your households where there's an 18 to 24-year-old parent with a minor child, because you're going to then bring that data down and you're going to enter it here as well. And there's one question coming up. Let's take a look at it. Or is that the same question? No, I think, so no new questions?
No new questions came through.
Okay, great. Okay. All right. So as I said, when you think about your households with at least 1 adult and 1 child, take the time to identify those parenting youth scenarios then, because that will make it easier when you come down to this table to pluck out those households and enter their data here. Okay, you can have it however many you have. It could be, you could have 2 households that are parenting youth. They're both chronically homeless households. If you say you have 2 households, then you have to have at least 2 parenting youth, and you have to have at least 2 children under the age of 18. If that logic doesn't apply here, let's say I had 1 here and I tried to save, you would get an error message, okay? Because again, remember, when it comes to parenting youth households and households with at least 1 adult and 1 child, your total person count has to be greater than your household count, okay? It can't be less. So it's got to be 2 there. So 2 unaccompanied youth, meaning we have 2 people 18 to 24 who are parents, and here are the 2 parents, here are the 2 kids for those 2 households. They're single child households, and total number of chronically homeless would be 4 in that case. All right, now, when you go to enter your gender, race, and ethnicity info, it is just asking for that for the parent, okay? And you want to just provide that. So again, gender, parenting, youth only, okay? So we have 2 parents here, and oh, is there a question, or is that just the same question that keeps popping up? Oh, probably, let me just, yeah, it's just the same question again that keeps opening. Okay. So you just want, again, you want to make sure that those numbers total up to the total number of parents here. So you have 4, and then so you have total number of parenting youth parents only would be your 4, which is what you would then enter, and then we got to get the number of parenting youth for under age of 18 would be your 6 here, okay? And then again, you would just provide your data for whatever you want it to be. And we'll just put in the numbers, and 3 and 3 and 0 and 0, and let's we'll go 6 and 0, 0, 0, just to mix it up a little bit. Okay, and then you're done there. But again, making sure that it's just the parents. Most of you, as I said, are going to be all zeros here. Okay. Again, you're only going to have data in that category for if you're a program that can serve that particular group. Other programs will have data here and here because, again, these are adult scenarios, 18 to 24 with a minor. So if you do have a program that serves households with children, just again, keep in mind how many of those households are headed by somebody 18 to 24 where there's nobody over the age of 24, and they're going to go down here. All right. Unaccompanied youth households. As you can see, there's data here because we had data in the unaccompanied household for those under the age of 18. Most of you are going to be zeros, but for the scenario where you have data, it will migrate down for you, okay? Again, most of you are going to have zeros here, and you'll be done with that. You just have to worry about your unaccompanied youth households. Those are households where there's somebody 18 to 24 representing a loan with nobody over the age of 24 and nobody under the age of 18. So that is going back to your households without children's table. okay, without children table household. How many of these households are somebody 18 to 24 representing alone, or two persons between 18 to 24 represented together? That's fine. Again, the key is there's nobody under the age of 18 and nobody over the age of 24. So in this scenario, we're going to say there's 5, because there would have to be, because we have 10 total households, 5 18 to 24, 5 over 24. So we have 5 unaccompanied youth in this particular scenario. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that data down. We're going to say number of households 5, and then number of unaccompanied adults 5, and then a number of chronically homeless persons. So then did we have, yeah, we'll just say 5 for that because they're going to be chronic. And then your total person count, you're going to have to provide 7 here, because again, it did bring down the other 2. And they want, it should be this is going to be everybody essentially in here, because again, there's nobody with a child here. This is just a representation of the households where the person is under the age of 18 or the person is 18 to 24. So you're going to be providing the data from this table. So whatever number you see here is the number you're going to bring down. And we'll say, we'll just do 4 and 3 and 0 0 and 4 and 3 and we'll say 4 and 3 and 0 0 0 0. Okay. All right. So there's your unaccompanied youth household table. Okay. So that's the last table. As I said, for most of you, you're not going to have to worry too much about the households with unaccompanied children, these 2. Make sure you put in zeros if that's not your responsibility. If you don't provide services to that age group, you have to put zeros there. For those of you who do provide runaway homeless youth support, you're going to have data there, and you're also going to have data down below. If you do have parenting youth households, which is possible, any program that serves adults could have that, where you have, again, that somebody 18 to 24, who also has a minor with them, somebody under the age of 18, you're going to be providing that data in the households with adults and children, and then also down in that subpopulation table. Veteran data, as we talked about as well, again, it's of all the people you serve, how many are veterans, and how many are parenting veterans, where there's somebody under the age of 18, and then, of course, how many are veteran households where there's nobody under the age of 18. So those are the keys. Take your time with it. If you have any questions or you get tripped up or you're not sure, all you have to do is submit a help desk ticket and tell us. As always, I'm going to scroll back up to the top. You can see the program name that you're working on is right there. Just tell us the name of the program, or if you can, tell us the PIT ID number, because that will also help us identify which program you're looking at as quickly as possible. And then we can go and take a look. If we need to, we can do a screen share with you and help you solve your problem. All right. Okay, so it looks like there's a few questions that have come in. So let's see. Okay, so a question on the hotel motel. So I know a lot of information has gone out about this, but just to clarify here, we are creating the hotel motel programs, and they're going to be available in the PIT database for as many that we are aware of based off of what's on Smart Sheets, okay? So if on the night of the PIT count, you don't see a hotel motel program assigned to your username in the PIT database, then go ahead and submit a ticket and say, you know, we have hotel motel programs for COVID, and we need to enter our clients, and then you'll be given access so you can enter your the client information for those staying at your hotel motel program. Okay, so again, on the night of the PIT count, if you don't see that program, then just let us know and we can assign it to you. If it's a hotel motel program we're not aware of, then we'll create it and get into the database so then you can enter your data. Okay. All right, so let's see, next question. What about if there is a program that you do not provide PSH for, but is showing up on the PIT overview? Again, that's okay. There's a lot of programs that that are associated with organizations that cover more than one agency. So example being like the Balance of State. So in HMIS, there's an organization called Balance of State, which has multiple projects that cover multiple agencies, and users will see that because they're assigned to the organization balance of state and HMIS, so they can do the data entry for their specific HMIS program, but you'll also see that program in the PIT database. If it's not your responsibility, if you don't do the data entry for that program in HMIS, you don't have to worry about it. You only have to worry about the programs that you provide data entry for in HMIS. Now, if the program is a program that's part of your agency, that's a different story. Then I would say go ahead and submit a ticket and say, this program is in our agency, but I'm not sure why I'm seeing it, and we'll just make sure that somebody else is, because just because you're seeing it, or if you're seeing it, most likely other people at your agency are seeing it as well. So again, the key being is that if the organization is either DOH or balance of state, for example, and you do data entry for a balance of state program in HMIS, then you're going to see multiple balance of state programs in the PIT database as well. Okay, again, just focus on the ones that you're responsible for. Okay, now the last summary, the summary table. What's important here is to pay attention to your total household count to make sure that it makes sense, and your total person count to make sure that that makes sense. If it's off somewhere, go back and see where you might have some missing information if you think you should have more people or more households. The next step is to look at your capacity, because this is showing you the number of beds that you reported when you did your housing inventory. So this program is showing a bed count of 53 and a person count of 20. That would be problematic. Most likely, that number is going to be, the number of people is either going to be higher or your bed count is incorrect. So pay attention to that. If you're one or two off, that's fine. If you're around 90%, 95% at capacity, not an issue. But once you get below that, once you get into the 90s or less, you're definitely going to want to check that out. So this would be a scenario where I would probably double check the total number of persons that I entered because I missed something somewhere. This is only pulling in the green-headed tables, okay? So it's looking at total persons that it sees here, here, and then here, and here, okay? So if you don't have any data on these two tables, as most of you won't, you really only have to worry about the households with adults and children and households without children to try to figure out where your count is off. Okay, so again, this value should be as close to this number as possible. Now, if you're under capacity, you don't have to explain it. You only have to provide information for overutilization. Now, I say this every year, and every year after the PIT count, people like to tell us a story why they're underutilized, okay? It's great, it's nice, but if you're entering information here and you're underutilized, you don't have to, okay? If you're way underutilized, you're gonna wanna try to fix the problem. And if you're way underutilized and there's a reason for it, then that's something you're going to want to submit to your continuum, like example, to either balance of state, housing innovations, or to ODFC, because they're going to need to investigate that with you. So only tell us about your overutilizations, okay? If you're overutilized by, let's say that this number came out to 55, okay? So you have 55 total people, but only 53 beds. Well, what's the reason for that? There could be a few. Number one, it could be that you have 2 infants in the program. So you have 55 people because 2 of them are in cribs. Cribs don't get counted on the housing inventory side. Cribs, they're not considered beds. So all you have to say is that cribs are in use if this number were 55. And that would be it. You wouldn't have to say anything else. Or you could have a scenario where you have 55 total people, 53 beds, because the beds are occupied by more than one person. Siblings could be sharing a bed, or cohabitating adults could be sharing a bed, and that's all you have to do. If there's another reason other than these 2, you can provide it by clicking other reason and putting in a response to that. Don't just click other reason and then don't say anything. Click other reason and then explain why you're over capacity, why you have 60 people and 53 beds. Reason for that is that the continuums, either Housing Innovations or DFC, might see, well, they're going to see that. They'll see that and say, well, those people are not sharing a bed. They're not in cribs. So you've gotten extra funding for more beds. They may want you to show those beds on the inventory side versus not showing them. So you can provide that information when you say other reason, you can provide it there. And okay, I think that, okay, yeah, no new questions, no, okay. So again, the key is review your summary table, look at the total person count versus the bed capacity count. If you're over, provide a reason. If you're under by a couple, that's not a big deal. If you're way under, reevaluate. And if you're not sure what the problem is, submit a help desk ticket, okay? Any questions about the inventory for the people count? I'm gonna go back out. Once you hit save, you're going to get a similar here. You get a checkbox there, and you'll get a completion value there, and you'll be done with that particular program. Okay, and then you can go on to the next one. If you're a PSH program and a TLP program, you can start entering your people count data. I would say as of Friday is fine. All right. If you're an ES or a rapid rehousing, you cannot enter your people count data until the night of the count. All right. So again, PSH programs and TLP programs, because they have very little turnover, and on the night of the count, most likely what they have today is going to be the same as what they have on the night of the pit count. Whereas ES and rapid rehousing, they ask that those not be done until either the day of the count or the night. You can, for ES, it's definitely not until the day of. Rapid rehousing, you can probably start the night before. But the real rule is for PS and TLP, by Friday, go ahead and start having fun and enter in your people count data and submit tickets if you have questions. As I said, if you have a question about a particular program, if you can tell me this number, it's the quickest way to communicate the problem. It's telling me program 1608, I'm getting an error message. Well, make sure you pay, or you can copy and paste the error message so I can see it. Or again, if need be, also provide me some dates and times when you're going to be available for a screen share so we can look at the data that way. It'll save at least one email back and forth if you can tell me up front what your availability is versus me saying, hey, we need to look at this together. Tell me what your availability is, because then, we are going to, there'll be a little bit of a time delay going back and forth, those couple of emails. So as I said, make sure, tell me the program ID number, explain the problem as best you can, provide the error message if it's there, and then some dates when you are available for a screen share. Okay.
Great, thanks, Jim. We had one question that came in about that, asking if it needs to be completed that night or can they do it the next morning?
So if you can do the for emergency shelters and rapid rehousing, I believe, I'm not sure what the actual date is. Usually it's by that Friday is when all the data entry needs to be complete. So the Friday after the pit count is what they ask for. I think that might be a little bit extended this year. I apologize, I don't have the actual date of when the COCs want that complete. But you do have some time, but you just want to make sure that you know who was in your shelter, especially on the night of the count, whether you use that using your shelter roster or however you manage that. Just make sure you represent the people that were there during the pit count timeframe.
Great, thank you. And I see we're over our time, but there was another question that popped in. If the program is households without children and the total number of the households is 7, but the number of chronically homeless is only 5, will this be an issue?
Right, so you have a total number of households of 7. Is that household so if one person in the household is chronically homeless, the entire household is chronically homeless.
Got it.
So let's say you have a household count, and we'll go down to individuals. We'll just say these are all individuals. Now, if you had, it sounds like it must be at least probably households with children. So you have 7, total number of households is 7. If you say this, so if you say 7 households and you say all households are chronic, then every single person in that household would have to be chronic. Okay, so let's say we have You would have then at least 7, and then from here you could have any mix of at least 7 here, we'll say that, and 0, and then your total person count of chronically homeless would be 14. This is assuming that there's 1 child and 1 adult in each of these households. It could be more, this can't be less. But if you say 7 here, that means everybody's chronic. Now, you could say 6 here, and then you would only want to provide the count of chronically homeless for the those 6 households. So it probably looks something like that, where you have 6 households where they're chronic, and there's at least 2 people in each of those households, so your chronic homeless person count would be 12.
Okay. So we have a few questions. I think the term household is confusing some people. Can you just give a definition of what you consider household?
A household is 1, or a household is more than 1.
All right. And would you say that a PSH enrolled person that is incarcerated is not counted?
If they're not in the bed in the program on the night of the count, then they would not be counted or tallied here. No.
Perfect. Okay. Well, that looks. All right, another one. So that looks like that is all of our questions that came through. We are at the end of our hour, and I see our attendance is trickling down. So I will say that I know this was a lot of information. It was very informative, Jim. But if anyone missed anything, the demonstration will be available on our website under our resource tab. You will see our webinar library, and then it will also be emailed out to you all if you need to go back and reference it or share it with some others. So, Tim, is there any last thing that you need to add?
Just again, anybody who is new to this, they did not do the HIC this year, and they've never logged into the PIT database yet, just please submit a help desk ticket because we're gonna have to get you set up. But if you did the HIC, you should be all set to go. There should be no issue.
Great. Thank you all. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Linda, for being here and sharing this information. And you all take care. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.